This is going to be a little bit of a rant. I'm going to start to be talking about the sexuality in Gan Eden, because sexuality is the whole secret to begin with. It comes from Yesod, and the thing of Yesod is that it has a Yud, which is the seed, the sperm, and then a Sod. So of course the Yud is the secret, and the sexuality is the secret, and Yesod is the foundation. In a certain sense, it's the foundation stone, the Aven Shatia. Aven, as stone, has a great depiction as Aleph Bet Nun. It contains the word Av, father, and Ben, Nun. The gematria of this, of Aven, is 53. 53 is the gematria of Gan Eden. In full, Aven is 703, which is also the Gan, and it's also Shabbat plus 1. And this idea of sexuality, for me, is brought to us in how we're supposed to utilize this secret of sexuality. Because basically, we're just sexual creatures. On the 6th day, you get a double portion of man. And I received man this morning. Man has to be related to the concept of Haman. Hay, and then man. One of the reasons why Haman, or Haman, has the word man in it is that Haman was related to drink. He wanted a feasting of drink, where Mordecai and Esther wanted food. And that's why he misunderstood his own name, because the man is food. It doesn't have to do with liquor. Yayin has to do with liquor. Man has to do with food. And he was not of that level. He thought the highest level was drink. Man is the bread of faith. Drink, from Yayin, is of Chokmah. Actually, Yayin spells Chokmah. Yud Nun is 70, and 3 letters, 73, and that's Chokmah. But man has to do with faith. It's the bread of faith. Lachem min hashamayim. It's the bread of faith. It contains the root of Amen. And man is the double portion that you get on the 6th day, which is 6 is Yesod. And this is the bread of faith, and in it, in the portion it says man hu, and if you put those two together, you get emunah. So food comes from faith, and drink comes from Chokmah. It's a lesser aspect. But then this leads me to sexuality in Gan Eden. Because in Purim we have all this transference of sexuality. We have an uncle who's the husband and maybe his daughter. We have two husbands in the king and Mordecai for Esther. We have this changing of the dressing. It's not oil and vinegar dressing. It's that men dress as women and women dress as men. And I'm going to be bringing this up in an LGBTQ plus world. And I'm going to be stressing the plus. First, we do this Chokmah and Bina that I had after I started thinking about sexuality in Gan Eden. And Chokmah, because I was looking for which other Sephirot have the letter Yud in it, if any. And I thought there'd be none. But then it turned out to be, because Yud is the primary letter, the Kedusha letter of Yesod. So I was going up the list. It's not in Teferet, not in Gevurah, not in Chokmah, not in Keter, but it's in Bina. Bina is Benya, but Bina. So I started doing some gematrias and realizing that Bina is 67. And that's the letter Zion, which Zion is also a penis symbol. But it's the mother in relation to Yesod. But then I said to myself, my, because I happen to know something about the number 73 of Chokmah. Chokmah is the letter Gimel. So the father and mother, Abba and Ima, who are always joined, always connected, happen to be the letters Gimel for Chokmah and Zion for Bina. And I always get this mixed up. I always think that's 130. Well, let me show you how I found that. It's 140, actually. $140, which is Shalem of that, and a Hetzi is 70. And the 70 happens to come into play as the din of the Gimel. And the din of the Gimel is 70, and the din of the Zion is 60, and that comes out to be 130. And 130 is ayin itself. So that's how I used to get it mixed up, because it has to do with the eyes. And one of the reasons you cover the eyes on the Shema, let me do this one, it's because you're not supposed to see the union of the man who is saying the Shema, who is now the Kala of Hashem. And he's not supposed to see, or she, the Kala, the woman, is not supposed to see the Hassan, the groom, before the wedding. So she covers her eyes in an olive, because the wedding is with the olive. And she covers her eyes. So the man takes on the persona of a woman when he says the Shema. And this is a transgender type thing. He's a feminine to God's masculine. And this is actually why women are not required to say the Shema. Because the man is the challah to Hashem. He's feminine to Hashem. And a woman's the challah to the man. But this doesn't have to do with the man. This has to do with man to God. Man to God becomes a woman. He's the wife of God. He's the wife of the Father. The Ben. Ben Shatia. So this Gimel, which is 3, and the Zion of Bina is 7. And these are the 2 laws, the 3 and the 7. And this is the way things are broken down into 3 upper and 7. In all systems, 3 is the circle for pi, and 7 are the linear pursuits of this. 7 days of the week. But there's 3 in the upper realms, like the 3 meals of Shabbos, or the 3 arms. 3 hands, rather. Yad Hazaka, Yad Gadola, Yad Hazaka, and Yad Ramah. So that's just a little bit of a side here to show that this union of the 3 and the 7 are from 3 from Chokmah, 7 from Bina. And Chokmah is higher, and the circle worlds are higher of 3. And from Bina, the 7 lower ones are emanated. This leads me into what's the most important thing. In fact, that's how the reason I've gotten some of this is that the Nahash and the Gan Eden, you see, was actually a 3 in the beginning of it's like an Ouroboros. He sinned the misunderstanding. Well, it's a 3 and the 7. Or you translate, forget what I just said, delineate. The Ouroboros was actually a 7. I mean, the snake was a 7 standing. And he was then put onto the ground. And when you recognize that when he becomes an Ouroboros and 3, then we'll be back into Gan Eden. And the Ouroboros is a snake biting its own tail. And that's the esoteric symbolism. Let me save you a lot of time. The esoteric symbolism of yoga. You all like yoga? We all do. Because yoga has to do with the body. And we're all embodiments in the highest level of spirituality. The entire secret of yoga is for you to be supple enough to give yourself autofellatio. I've said this before here, and that's one of the reasons it's more difficult for a woman, because she doesn't have the added phallus, penis, so she has to give herself autocunnilingus, which is more difficult. But if you've ever noticed, Women are more supple. That's why they do yoga. One of the reasons they do yoga is that they're all supple and bending. So they think they're doing yoga by bending, but they're born that way. The secret of yoga is an autofellatio. It means that you become self-sufficient. The snake biting its own tail means that your mouth is your own sexual organ. My talking here like this is my sexuality, which doesn't come out of the penis, but comes back into the mouth. So make no mistake about this. All this that you're doing and hearing and seeing is my sexuality and my expression of this. Because part of my symbol is being an Ouroboros. It means that you become a cycle. It's simple. That's what it is. Other key things, besides the Ouroboros, are the foundation stone, the philosopher's stone, the lapis, the bozzina di cartenuta, the hard spark, the synthome of Lacan, the fetish object, your fetish. What is your fetish? Your secret of secrets that makes your life as the center, as the omphalos, as the place of the belly button, the foundation stone in the temple where the Holy of Holies was, but where definitely Yitzhak was supposed to be sacrificed and was replaced by an Aiel who is really Hevel. So as we I once saw a really obnoxious speaker at a Gurdjieff group 40 years ago. And he used to drink, you can't see here like this. He'd pick up his arm, not like I picked it up like this, but with a high elbow. See it? High elbow, and then he'd put it down. So now we approach the sexuality in Gan Eden. And how the Nun becomes a Samach. The Nun, which is the snake, is actually, that's why it's called the Nahash. The Nun is a standing man, becomes a Samek. The Nun is the 14th letter, and that's Purim. And the 15th letter is Purim, Shushan Purim. Shushan Purim is the 15th of the month. That's the letter Samak. So when we turn the Nun, the long Nun, the final Nun, into a Samak, we're actually fulfilling the task of the whole purpose. is to become an Ouroboros. It means Ouroboros, by the way. Wrote this down here. Has to do with eating. A light eater, or Ouroboros, eater of light. Or is also the gematria of Ein Sof. Ouroboros actually means food I eat. Yeah, I just want to talk about these things. It's already a long time here. So I'm going to start to talk about the sexuality in Gan Eden next time. And this is a preliminary. And one of the things is that you have to understand that at the root, you're only a sexual being. And this is and physicality is a sexual expression. All physicality is only a sexual expression. And so the physicality is in the animal soul. And that's why they think the animal soul is even higher than the godly soul. Because when you become some sort of ascetic, you kind of transform that animal soul into some sort of thing that isn't normative sexual stuff. But it really is. It's deeper sexual stuff. The celibate and the ascetic is all sexual. What he does is he wants his body to be a sexual item and fetish 24 hours a day. And therefore, if it's a sexual fetish 24 hours a day, that's sexuality. It doesn't mean that he has to kiss somebody or have an external orgasm and shoot forth. And this is the very deep thing, and this is the real thing in Gan Eden. And we're going to explore that.